Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, more trade talk. We're back, folks. Jimmy Butler open to the Valley of the Sun. Who wouldn't be? Could a deal actually happen? Where is this all going? We'll break down every single angle as this story unfolds next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your Thursday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode, folks, is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do to get $20 off your first purchase. Joining me, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this Thursday, Ben Garcia?
I am requesting a trade. And I am going to leak 4 teams, but then I'm going to get upset with you for leaking those 4 teams, Brendon.
I would never leak them. I would never leak
them. Remember yesterday when I said, hey, we have this, Woj Shams thing, Shams Woj. Well, I guess it's Shams and Jimmy's agent. That's who's going to be fighting with them over conflicting reports. But it's nice to have things to talk about. That's for sure.
It's also nice to have good players in line to potentially, maybe join the Phoenix Suns. That is a very good thing as well. We will get to revisiting not only our takes on whether this deal is worth it, but whether this deal will happen. But let's start with all the updates, Ben, that have basically happened since we talked even 24 hours ago, all right? So we talked yesterday, and it was kind of a twinkle in our eye that Jimmy would even be on the table for the Suns. We were just kind of speculating, and fast forward to about 3 hours ago or so, and Shams Charania tweets that the Phoenix Suns are, quote, another team that Jimmy Butler's agent Bernie Lee has indicated in league circles that the 6-time All-Star is open to as a destination while Miami listens to trade offers joining Dallas, Houston, and Golden State. All right, so as we kind of talked about, Butler is on the final year, the final guaranteed locked-in year. He has a player option next season, which, bridge to cross another day. And he kind of controls his own destiny. They didn't give him an extension, and now they're at this sort of crossroads here. So we heard that. Then, pretty quickly, Ben, we get a comment on X from Butler's agent, Bernie Lee, who Shams referenced in that tweet, but apparently you might not have talked to directly, because Bernie Lee, he put out 3 or 4 tweets, but I'll read the main one, which is, quote, world, all this is fabricated. I have never, and honestly, it wouldn't help me or the position I represent to do anything that's been reported by said, quote, journalist. Now, people have pointed out, Ben, and you can chime in on all this before I get to the Suns part of this, that Bernie Lee also did this once already with Jimmy's MCL sprain, and it proved to be exactly the correct reporting from Shams about this injury. So where are we with the Jimmy sweepstakes and the Suns' entrance into it before we talk about the Suns' side of it, which we also got an update on?
You know how, I think it's in this is so stupid, but I'm going to reference it anyways. Like in SpongeBob, where Plankton has this whole plan. He's like, what are you going to do next? He's like, I don't know. I didn't think I'd get this far. That's what I feel like this is an extension of from yesterday, where you and I are both like, this is not happening. But if it did, the only way it would happen is if Jimmy chose Phoenix. What I am so confused about, and I would love to ask this, and I didn't ask this over text, why are stars, if the Suns are seen as kind of a sinking franchise, especially without Kevin Durant, why do stars keep on wanting to come here?
Why are we saying that?
Do you think that the way that the NBA world and maybe the media perceives Phoenix is just so much different than players? Because everyone wants to come here.
I think a lot of teams are in a pretty similar situation to the Suns, is how I would put it. So
Mm.
I don't necessarily think the Suns are in some kind of insane circumstance compared to a lot of other teams. I mean, 2 off seasons ago, right after the Beal trade, maybe, but now they have a couple of promising rookies. They have a draft pick to be utilized. The other underpinning of this Butler situation is that they actually could get some more flexibility cap-wise, depending on what his future contract situation were to look like versus what they're stuck with when it comes to Beal. So I just don't think it's as bad as other situations.
Yeah, let me pause you a little bit. You are, like when you're in like that Zoom call and like you're kind of letting that person kind of talk through some of the ins and outs of the Wi-Fi going out. You for like a minute, maybe 45 seconds there, just went in and out. So maybe you want to pop out and pop back in. I don't know, but yeah, about 45 seconds of that, very, very difficult to hear.
Technical issues have been solved. Ben, I just don't think that the Suns are in that dramatically different of a situation. To answer your question, I think that that's why they continue to be appealing to a Bradley Beal, to a Jimmy Butler. I mean, if you look at Milwaukee, if you look at a lot of other teams right now, I think that this cap situation is just kind of the reality for the best teams, a lot of them. And beyond that, it's just where do I fit? Where do I want to win? The weather's pretty nice and all the other stuff that people always think about when they're changing teams.
Yeah, and I guess if there's any team that is very similar to Miami, especially now, it is Phoenix. And I don't think you really get that even with the Bay. If it's kind of cold out there, I guess Texas is kind of there too. But overall, man, I am not necessarily stunned, but it does have an eerily similar feel to when Bradley Beal was being acquired to the Phoenix Suns, where it was, yeah, this would be kind of cool if it happened. And then we saw the Josh Barlstein connection, and then it just kind of took off from there. I don't know, man. Everything just seems so strange how just targeted it was at the Suns day. No other team we've seen that yet. So just surprised with that.
Do you buy what Bernie Lee is doing on Twitter, what Butler's agent is saying, or why do you think he did that?
I think that because this is the second time it's happened, Shams definitely has a connection in the Jimmy camp, who's the mole, and is releasing information. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know. Information gets out if someone wants it out. And so I just think Shams has information that maybe Bernie didn't mean to leak out to him, or Bernie said it to someone else and that got to Shams. However that happened, I do think, given the reporting out there, that I don't think Shams just makes things up. Why would Shams do even if Phoenix wasn't, like, it was just a dark horse contender and he wasn't 100% sure, why would he put it out there? Because he was 100% sure about the other three teams, and then he added the Suns onto there. Like, it's all a little fishy to me, and I think Bernie's just unhappy that it's gotten out.
Yeah, I think it damages his leverage. I would agree.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Shams clearly didn't hear it directly from him, but the idea that it's all fabricated feels ridiculous. And it's also a little bit of a silly, like you're saying, like it's a semantic argument to make at the end of the day, because Butler himself addressed these rumors at practice today, where he basically said,
yes,
we'll see. And kind of, he didn't put the fire out. So if all of the beginning of this was pretty real, but just the Suns aspect is suddenly all a lie, it's just, you're getting into the weeds of something. And I think that the agent is kind of overplaying his hand with the strong worded tweets here. But the other part I didn't mention from Sham's side is on NBA Countdown, pregame show before the NBA Cup games today, he goes out of his way to say I want to get the wording right, I believe it was keep a very close eye on the Suns or something like that.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, he said, I tweeted it, so I should be able to keep a very close eye on the Suns. That is exactly what it was. And then Gerald Bourguet of PHNX, who obviously does great work, said, per a source, the Suns aren't pursuing a Jimmy Butler trade. Basically, Phoenix believes in their big three and what they've seen from this group, who went 11-2 when fully healthy. Do you buy that?
I mean, I would. You are way more into the reporting side that I am. You kind of knows how these things kind of work. If just really quickly, if you ask me, no, I think Gerald is spectacular at his job and a good personality at PHNX. I don't buy it at all. At all. And then the way I would ask you, do you buy that reporting? You have been in these weeds a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, look, I think what I always say with reporters who I trust and respect, whose reports I might not vibe with, is that I believe they were told that. Right? He was told that. I don't think Gerald lied. I mean, what the hell would he have the point of doing that, right? But do I believe the person who told him that? No, I don't, because I just think that there's an order of operations here, right? There's an order of operations for what Jimmy Butler's agent wanted to be public. There is an order of operations for what the Suns want to be out there, right? Aren't pursuing a Jimmy Butler trade. Okay, maybe that's true right now. What happens when Pat Riley calls James Jones? Are they, what then? Does he hang up? Probably not, right? And so I think that this is just maybe the Suns not wanting to insult Beal if they haven't had the proper lines of communication there. This is a leverage between the teams if a trade were to materialize. All of these things that are all just kind of part of how this stuff tends to play out. That's my read on it. Your nodding tells me that it's your read as well.
I love the way that you're painting this picture, which is exactly why I kind of shifted it over to you, because I don't know the ins and outs of this kind of stuff. But the only way I believe Gerald's reporting, which I don't believe at all Gerald lied. I agree with you. I believe he was told that. The only way I would believe that reporting, and this would make sense, is if they went to Beal and said, hey man, just out of curiosity, how do you like South Beach? And he said, no. Well then no, because he's not going anywhere. But that's the only way that would have happened. And I don't really buy that either, because...
And that would have been the report at that point, right? That would have been what Gerald said, is Bradley Beal has notified the Suns that he would not waive his no-trade clause in order to go to Miami. That's not what he said. So for now, I look at it as they want to maintain their level. What do the Suns have to gain by Gerald calls whoever he's talking to in the front office up, and they say, yeah, we want Jimmy, F Bradley Beal, let's get this done. What is the value of that? That'd be unprofessional and ridiculous. So yeah, let's get to the mechanics. Let's get to the mechanics of the trade here.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that if the Suns, which we're going to get to that right now, that you just mentioned the mechanics of the trade, but let's just let you tee that up, because that's what I was gonna get into.
It is possible. We had some pushback in our YouTube comments. There's been a lot of debate on Twitter about if this thing is actually legitimate and how it could work. I reached out to somebody, one of the very few people in the NBA that I actually know happens to be a very smart cap guy. I talked to him, Keith Smith, who runs the whole operation over at SpotTrack and the site that all of us go to look these things up. And we got some more reporting from John Gambadoro. So let's dive into how this could look if it were to happen, coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by Game Time, the best place to buy any ticket. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks puts, whether you're looking at a city like our wonderful Valley of the Sun here, or you're looking at an event, it puts the best value tickets right up top to give you the best value. That is how they make it easier. That is how they make it cheaper, and they really meet that moment. In addition, they have their all-in pricing, their view from your seat, and much more that have always made Game Time the best place to go. But take the guesswork out of buying tickets completely with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Ben, we got a lot more info to get to here as we talk through all of the Jimmy Butler for Bradley Beal permutations. Reminder, to get all the news and analysis on this major story in the NBA, sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter. You get writing from Katie Heindel and Mike Shearer, two great analysts and people whose work we've cited here on this show many times, as well as writing from Ben and I. You can keep up with the show, get fantasy advice, and much more all in one place for free just by typing your email address at the link in the show description below, and you support the show, best of all. All right, so We have one more nugget of reporting here from locally, Ben, which is from Gambo. And shout out to SI Sons and Kevin over there, Kevin Hicks, who wrote this up. He listened to Burns and Gambo today, so we didn't have to. Frankly, I couldn't have because I was not near a radio. So shout out Kevin. And Gambo said two things on the radio today that add fuel to this fire. The first was, I do think with a third team involved, that there is a way to get a deal done. We're about to get to that. All right. And then he said this. Quote, I think Bradley Beal would waive his no trade clause. I think if he got the chance to be more of the player he used to be, he would take that opportunity. Okay, so I still see a lot of speculation online that the Suns, and including what Gerald said, right? And a lot of people, even nationally, everything else saying, well, if the Suns have to trade one of the big three, flush this down the toilet, it's not happening. That's not true. I think the Suns would want the upgrade from Beal to Butler, which you and I can get to. I think we might disagree there. And Gambo seems to believe that Beal would play ball here. So that just makes me feel like we're even closer to this thing being very, very possible.
I think we're already past it being very, very possible. This is the first I am hearing of that, which is crazy. I'm usually on top of all this stuff. I figured Beal would waive his no trade clause just because we knew there was some interest in Miami potentially before, and also it's South Beach. We're not sending this guy to Detroit, so it's not exactly a bad consolation prize. Plus, I just think Beal, it wasn't as cut out as he thought it was going to be here in Phoenix. And, just we're going back to, I just want to go back quickly to what I was going to mention before was, why would the Phoenix Suns come out and like kind of say that, this was like their plan all along, whatever they were saying to Gerald, that they are pursuing Jimmy Butler? Like, why would they say that? Well, the Suns have little leverage, right? If there is a team out of the four teams, who's got the best trade package? Is it the Suns? No, it's not even close. So if you're putting out there as well that you're trying to get Jimmy while having the least amount of leverage, the only way you're getting Jimmy Butler is if Jimmy Butler says he wants to go there. And so when you add together that Gambo report too, man, I don't know, you kind of say that we're not so sure how real it is. It feels pretty real to me, man. It feels very real. And it just like last time, like, hey, a dark horse, keep an eye on the Suns for Bradley Beal. Shams Charania, keep a very close eye on the Suns. Like, they're trying to tell you something without telling you something. So that's where I'm at on it, man. It all feels very real, and Gambo's very well sourced.
I learned my lesson when the Beal stuff happened, and I had egg on my face after that. On this podcast, I said, shut up. I'm not even talking about it. This is not going to happen. This is not real. There's no way. And I was wrong. Because when there's a will, there tends to be a way, and Beal wanted to be here. He had control of the situation. His value was, up and down because of his contract and his no trade clause and everything else. So he ended up here. And so let's get to it. So reminder, the Suns are over the second apron, the Heat are over the first apron, meaning neither team can take back more salary than they send out. However, because Miami's just over the first apron, and this is going to get a little bit hairy, so please just try to follow. We'll continue to cover this, obviously, as it goes. But because Miami's only over the first apron, not the second, they actually can aggregate salary. So that's one of the things we've talked about ad nauseum with the Suns is they can't combine players in a trade. The Heat can. So that will be important here. And obviously, Beal's no trade clause we've talked about. The other aspect of this salary-wise, right? So we talked about this yesterday, but Butler makes this season $48.8. He is under contract for a maximum of 2 more seasons. Beal is on this year $50.2 million. He's under contract for a maximum of 3 more seasons. Did we miss any of the bare bones there?
No, we did not. We did not miss anything.
Okay.
I'm following.
Okay. If you're following, I think the audience is following.
I am
from
following.
My scrambled notes as I was watching Hawks Knicks earlier this evening. So one of the things that I was questioning and that I was pushing back on Gerald and Kellen Olson and other people on X today was that it is not possible for a trade to happen that ends up with Beal in Miami and Butler in Phoenix. Here is the facts. It is possible. okay? There does need to be a third team because of the thing I just said. If both teams can't take more salary than they send out, then the players that are in the trade, if it's just one-to-one trade, they have to make the same exact amount of money. And that's not going to happen. So it has to be a 3-team deal because Beal makes more than Butler. But that third team doesn't have to get Beal or Butler. They just have to take back money and picks, and all 3 teams need to touch each other in a trade. That's how these things work. They just have to take back enough money to offset Miami so that Miami is sending enough out where they can take back the $50.2 million that Beal makes. That's basically the most cut and dry way to think about it. If this thing gets closer, we can obviously talk about the different players that might include and whatever is on the actual table. And if a trade ever were to happen, we could break it down. But that's the basic facts that you need to know is the Heat could send to a third team somebody like, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Kevin Love, one of their lesser paid players, Kel'el Ware, the guy they just drafted that Suns fans might have wanted. That's kind of the situation. And so it is possible. What are your thoughts, Ben?
Well, also just so we're aware, I don't know if you have seen this as well, but Mark Stein is saying that the Rockets are not eyeing Jimmy, so that takes out another team. We saw it earlier today, potentially takes out another team. It's the very same thing with the Suns. Also reports that the Mavs are in no position to acquire Jimmy Butler right now with already 2 max players on there, so that makes it harder with the money as well. So that again, that it leaves the Suns there. So when you get down to all the kind of nitty gritty, and I was following a lot of stuff that you were putting out there with, I think you had said Keith Smith, or at least you retweeted some of the stuff. It does work. It is mental gymnastics, but it does work. And I don't know, man, everyone seems to have a piece to this puzzle where you're saying that Keith Smith, or like even with you right now, like it can happen. And then we're seeing Shams is saying Jimmy would go there, or Gambo. Gambo doesn't just say that if he doesn't have a strong hunch that Beal would take Miami. I think this thing's going to pick up in a hurry, man. And because it has to pick up in a hurry. There's nothing else. Like, it's not like they can rip from the Suns' grip something more. The Suns don't have anything to give, man.
That's true. I guess, if the Heat want to play hardball, they have no interest in wrecking their season, right? So I guess that could go either way. Wrecking their season might be Butler gets mad for the next 2 months. Nobody can be traded really until December 15th. There would be too many players not eligible to be dealt, so it's not probably worth it, but that's 4 days away.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But they don't have to do it until the deadline. I mean, you're right that the Suns' offer can't get better, but other teams' offers could get better, and maybe it's not like Butler has a no-trade clause, and he is on an expiring contract. They don't have to send him exactly where he wants to go. I know I sound like a narc right now. Like I do think every star player ends up going mostly where they want to go, but there's no
Brendon,
need on Miami's part to rush into it.
Sure. I don't care. Like, we'll get to our opinions of it again in just a second. We'll regurgitate that once more, but if Jimmy Butler says, dude, trade me to the Warriors, that's awesome. I'm A, not signing an extension with them, and B, I won't play for them. There's like this idea. The only thing a no trade clause does, and LeBron has it and Bradley Beal has it, is they're just not going to go there. But if you think Jimmy Butler's just going to go to the Warriors and he's not going to give them 2 double birds because he doesn't want to play there, if Jimmy says, I want Phoenix and I only want Phoenix, and if Bradley Beal will accept it, I only want Phoenix, I want everyone to understand this. He will be in Phoenix. If the Suns are interested, if Bradley Beal is interested, and if he says, I want there, it doesn't matter what the Suns have to offer, man. It really doesn't matter. This isn't Anthony Davis. This is a guy who's not even in his prime anymore, in the later parts of his career. So that's where I'm at with it.
So that's where I wanted to close out, is what kind of comes next. And one of the big dominoes would be if it gets to that point. Because so far, we've only heard he would consider Phoenix. So we haven't heard he only would consider Phoenix or something like that. That's a different kind of, chip, a different card to play, let's say. So let's look at what we're watching for as the week continues. And last but not least, where Ben and I stand on the deal and whether it's worth doing, most importantly. First, Today's show brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Back to the world of college basketball, as I keep insisting you guys take advantage of here. What is the biggest favorite on Thursday night? That is a very good question. Texas hosting New Mexico State minus 4,500. Also Virginia hosting Bethune-Cookman minus 2,000. Drop a little money on a blue blood, take your win, get to work, have some fun with that $150 in bonus bets, all at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Ben, let's close it out here. We've gotten through all of the new reporting, all of the details, my one little insider nugget that I've ever given in my life there. And now
you did a great job. You broke that down perfectly.
Right? Thank you. So I think what you said is exactly what I'm looking for, right? Does Butler ratchet this up, and when? I mean, there's also a world where the next week this goes kind of quiet. I mean, we don't really know, right? So look for more reporting there. More reporting on Beal's no trade clause. I mean, what Gambo said is pretty ironclad, but I would think there will be more of that from somebody like a Shams. And kind of the future contract situation with Butler as well, right? Who would he sign an extension with? What does that extension look like? Blah, blah, blah. Because that's part of why he wants to move, is not just because he hates the Heat or something. It's because he wants a new contract. So that's going to be weighing over all of this. I want to start here before we get to the Suns side, actually, because I think this is getting overblown, and I don't want to lock this whole concept in without looking at the opposite side. Because I was talking to Wes Goldberg, who I mentioned yesterday as well. He hosts Locked On Heat for us. He lives in Miami, covers his team day to day. He thinks he's going to the Warriors. He thinks that's the most likely of all the destinations right now. And he didn't say this, but I think it's worth considering. Tyler Hero's having a breakout season, finally. Kind of like the big breakout we've really been waiting for. Like all-star type numbers, finally looking like the number one option, playing as a real starter, heavy minute guy rather than a bench player. He kind of does a lot of the same things as Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
Are we sure Beal would want to go to Miami? Because Gambo said he would do it if he got the chance to be more of the Wizards version of himself. Is that going to happen next to Tyler Hero?
Yeah, because it's just Tyler Hero. I absolutely think that. I don't think that's an issue at all. I think because it is Tyler Hero, that he would still be able to be the number two to that guy, or even at times the number one. I know a lot of people think Bradley Beal's washed. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think he's the third option here, and which is why one of the reasons why I'm a little hesitant to just give up Beal for Butler. And, you just said your buddy thinks that he's going to the Warriors. If he is not going to the Suns, he's going to the Warriors. And let me just put this out there for everyone. The only way he's coming to Phoenix is if he says, send me to Phoenix, because the Suns have no assets. They can beat no one else in a trade. Every other team in this, even the teams that don't want him, could not try and still beat the Suns trade package. The only way this happens is if he says he wants Phoenix. So that's where I'm at. And yeah, Bradley Beal, $50 million, go live in South Beach. Yeah, I think he'd do that. I
actually think that the Suns draft pick, if they made the 2031 unprotected, I actually think that that's better than Dallas's best asset. Because they're not trading Kyrie or Luka. They're not trading Lively. So From there, you're talking about some of their role players, Washington, Gafford, Clay, something like that. And they only have this upcoming year's draft pick. So I know that Mark Stein said that the Mavs aren't really on the table, but I actually think the Suns package, even if it's just Beal in the first, which it is just that, I kind of think it might be more appealing to Miami. But Houston could blow them out of the water, and Golden State even. I think you would have to say with the Kuminga possibility there, Podziemski, and they have a couple of first-round picks. So you're right.
He's only coming here if he says he wants to be here. It's the only way. It's the only way.
Yep. So I guess let's just talk about the fit, because you mentioned that Beal's not washed, and it sounded to me like the health situation with Jimmy was the number one concern that you had.
Yeah.
I guess my question is what I've been thinking about, because you put out a clip and I was like revisiting us talking about that. And how is that any different than Beal? Beal is also a health concern. So if they're the same, if they both have that risk and Butler is a better fit, which I think you agree he's a better fit, then why are you against the Suns making that move, that switch?
This idea that Jimmy Butler is light years better than Bradley Beal at this stage of his career, I think is just factually wrong. The numbers have come down outside of some of his field goal percentage. The problem is this. Yes, if you told me I could take Beal or Butler for this season only, I'd probably be like, yeah, I'll take Jimmy Butler. The problem is I don't think it's that much of an upgrade over Bradley Beal, what they have right now, given the durability concerns, given the fact that he just hasn't been the same player as of recently. Someone, I think it was Espo, who tweeted at me, and it was like, the toughness. I'm like, well, the toughness isn't really there if you're not playing all your games, and he's not right now. And then it's also like, if the Suns had an excess of ammo, yes, go make it happen. But this is your last chance. Like, this is it. You have a couple of second-round picks.
Jimmy Butler.
You have a first-round pick.
You're making, it's like
I'd rather have Bradley Beal and potentially go get something better to shore up the center position, because we're still going to be complaining about Yusuf Nurkic if Jimmy Butler's on this team. That's where I'm at.
Maybe
I'd rather put that there.
Maybe, but I think like the part to make my case, I think that Butler. It's not just toughness, which is kind of a hard thing to measure. And like you said, if he's injury prone and everything else, it's hard to be tough if you're on a bum ankle, but it's not just that. It's what are this team's needs? Physicality and athleticism, which he's not like a leaper because he's in his mid 30s, but he's one of the most forceful players in the entire NBA, plays bigger than he is, but also is pretty big. And he's basically, if he bought in, which if he chose to come here, you'd think he would buy in, he's like supercharged Ryan Dunn. He's everything we've been hyping up this rookie for all season. And I still believe, as I've said over and over this whole season, that the Suns, as they're currently constructed, their best identity is more of a small ball, versatile approach. Jimmy makes that easier. You want to talk about death lineup, like you like to call it, with Dunn and O'Neal in there alongside the big three. I know there won't be a big three now because it'll be Butler instead of Beal, but the new big three, Butler, Booker, Durant, and then Royce or Dunn or even Grayson. I like that more. That's another small ball piece that makes that identity easier to get to and fills in some of the regular holes that this team has in terms of size and physicality and defense that we all kind of know are there. So to me, the only reason not to do this is, I suppose, getting rid of that pick, but you got to tell me who is a better fit or a better talent than Jimmy Butler, who you're going to go get versus the opportunity right here at hand to go get that guy who I know is pretty incredible.
Yeah, the durability concerns are a real thing, I think, right now for Jimmy Butler, and I understand I have to be kind of quick here, but if you are telling me that we get Bradley Beal, but bigger, still better defensively than Bradley Beal, but not exactly the shutdown defender that he used to be, and hopefully in spurts still playoff Jimmy, but you still have all the durability concerns and you have nothing now to make your team better. And then I also don't want to hear when the Suns are rolling out Butler, KD, and Booker, and they're like, we got to get rid of Nurkic. You can't do anything. Like, that's what I'm trying to, and I know you know this, but that's like, if the Suns do it, I'm not going to be vehemently against it. But I am going to have some real concerns about, like, all right, man, this is it. You have pushed all your chips on the table here. I think that 2031 pick is more valuable than people give it credit for. I don't think that's an issue with you, but I worry, man, because if Jimmy, I don't know, pulls a hamstring and is out in the playoffs or is out for 3 straight weeks, like, we're going to be saying, man, we already had that guy. I think that that's a real concern right now. And I don't think he's the same player, man.
That pick, sure he's not, but that pick is as good as gone, right? Do you think there's a way that it doesn't get dealt this season? They're going to trade it for something, right?
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think
I
you
don't know
can
how you
package.
can look at this situation and how much panic this entire fan base has had and how much talk Matt Ishbia has put out there of being all in around this big three, blowing through the second apron, all in of all in, and then say, but we're going to keep that one pick 7 years from now that will have no bearing on the careers of Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, or Devin Booker, despite all the things we've said and how much we've communicated to this fan base that now is our time. I think that pick is as good as gone, and if it is, then Butler's the best you're going to do with it, is my point.
There is a difference between being all in and aggressive and reckless. And I think just trying to find the first thing that you can throw that 2031 pick at, and if that's Butler, I think that that can be considered a little reckless, where last year the Suns got Royce O'Neal for, I think, 2 or 3 second-round picks. There could be a last-minute deal, and that's the risk that I'm running as well. But the risk I'm running as well is, well, at least I still have my pick at the end of the year. The risk I'm willing to do is, hey, maybe at the deadline, someone's willing to take on that Yusuf Nurkic contract if I give them 3 seconds that I got from the Nuggets. And I might be able to get, everyone tells me how great Nick Richards is, or who knows. I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole, but maybe a Walker Kessler. And I just think an improvement at our big situation, plus the guys that we have, I think is a better avenue than Jimmy Butler, where I just think adding another injury-prone, declining star, like I already have that right now with potentially in Bradley Beal, and I lose a bunch of assets. I'm not going to be vehemently against it, but I do want to warn Suns fans that, and I know you know this, but that if we get Butler, all of our problems are not going to go away. I can assure you they might even be magnified more because we can't fix them. And that's the thing that I worry about. But it would be fun.
That is all very fair.
Hey,
it would be fun.
Can I just ask you this, because I know we have to go? What's your prediction? Do you think he ends up in Phoenix?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I don't want to do yes or no, but can we do?
I'm not.
Can we do percent likelihood that it happens right now?
Okay.
So because that way we can kind of track over time. If we just say yes or no and then we check in on Monday and it's still yes, then it kind of gets boring. So tell me your percent chance right now.
Since I want to give myself some wiggle room, I think Jimmy Butler, I think there's about an 85% chance he ends up in Phoenix. There are way too many bells ringing, and Shams Charania. Why would Sham be like, keep your eye out on Phoenix? Yeah. He knows something.
I mean, it's the same thing as Windy with the fingers about the Jazz, right? I mean, like when these guys want to kind of tell us something but not quite tell us something, like you said at the beginning, they tend to do.
What about you?
I will go with 55. I think you're more bullish than me, but I think it's more than likely, right? So
I didn't expect you to be that high. This was fun. All right, now I just need LeBron to say he'd go to Phoenix, and we'll just be all in, man.
I get to 55 because it's that I think he's going to get traded, and right now the Suns seem like close to the front runner. Maybe the Warriors the other 45 right now, and that's kind of where I land. So
do you think Book and KD have shot him a text? Do you think so?
I mean, sure.
I bet they have. But how does Beal feel about that? There's a potential that this could spiral into something worse chemistry-wise. If he says, "Hey, why is there a group chat with Butler, you, and Book, KD?" And he's like, "It's nothing, man. We're just pals. We're just banana boat pals. Don't worry about it."
Well, just to circle back, I think that is exactly why you saw the Suns put water on all of this through Gerald today. And there will be much more reporting even by the next time we talk, I think, tomorrow. So hit follow or subscribe. We'll have content for you all throughout the week covering this story. And hey, the Suns also play a couple of games here in the next few days, Friday and Sunday. Injuries starting to let up, allegedly. We'll cover it all. Hit follow or subscribe. Get those shows in your feed, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.